Israel will never prevail over Iran. Iran is a real culture. Israel is not. They're going to call you a Nazi for that one. Yeah, because whenever people are like, whenever people point out that Israel has no culture except for like the borrowed bits of Jewish culture that they get from all around the world, people call you, dude, that's not Israeli culture. That's Jewish culture. If it's culture that's just like cobbled together whatever you get from like local Arab culture or like the Palestinian culture and or whatever you pull in from Brooklyn or New York or whatever, that's not the same as like a national culture. Jews are not Israel. Israel's a Jewish state. Shut the fuck up with this bullshit. Israel is a state that claims to be Jewish and has a large Jewish population. There's no real any such thing. There's no innate transposition of an ethnic or religious identity to a state. A state is a legal entity, not a cultural identity. That's like ethno-state logic, okay? We say Israel is a Jewish state as a kind of rhetorical shorthand. Like, yes, they have the Hebrew star in the flag. Yes, they ostensibly represent the interests of Jewish people, but we know they don't actually. Don't buy into the ethno-nationalism, man. There is no Jewish culture. Yeah, it's like saying there's Christian culture. Okay, what do you mean by like Christian culture? What do you mean like what was I say? Albanian, not Albanian, fucking Armenian? Do you mean like Italian, Southern or Northern? Do you mean like German? Do you mean like American, like Mormon Christian? Like, what do you mean? Like, there's like a billion Christians. A lot of them would kill each other. Do you mean the Fourth Crusade, where the Orthodox Christians were betrayed by the Catholics and they fucking sacked Constantinople? What are you talking about? Or Istanbul? Are people in YouTube chat seriously arguing about the culture thing? You people are fucking insane. Culture is a completely nebulous, indeterminate term. You could argue a single household has a specific culture. When I said Israel has no culture in that respect, what I mean is that Israel is a settler colonial state. It's a hastily slapped together mess of like local Arab influence, which they are continuously dispossessing and suppressing, along with dozens and dozens and dozens of expats and immigrants from all over the world. It's a colonial project. The culture of Israel is the culture of the homogenate that enter it, but it's not the same as having a regional culture that is based on like local trends that have developed over a long time. Those are distinct things. If you disagree, then you're kind of historically ignorant, man. That's just sort of how it works. Given enough time, Israel could form a distinct identity of its own, but right now, its only real distinguishing identity is the one democracy in the Middle East, the Zionist ethno-state, you know? Colorism, white supremacy, and European settler colonial ethnic supremacy are all like key components of cultural development there. But when you ask things like, okay, what is Israeli architecture like? What is Israeli food like? You're not going to get many strong answers because in a lot of cases, they're just cobbled together answers from the basic bits and pieces of the area that was there before and from the people that have come over. That's just what happens when you're new there. The modern Israeli state is not the same as the continuous Jewish presence in what is now Israel for thousands of years. If you believe that, then you'll believe Lebensraum. You'll believe, oh, the historic German colonial settling of Poland means that actually Western Poland is German territory. You're a fucking moron. You're an idiot. You've been duped. That is not they are not a continuous inheritor of that cultural legacy. And that's probably because historically the Jews that have lived in Israel are a little bit too Middle Eastern for the tastes of the Jews who have come down there. You know, a lot of the Jews in Israel are European and American, right? A lot of the Jews that have lived in that region for thousands of years are a lot more brown and a little bit more Arab adjacent than they're personally comfortable with, which is the reason why if you look at the leadership and the power bases, the foreign investment in Israel, it's not like, oh yeah, man, my family goes back here thousands of years. It's white guys. It's white Jewish guys. Look at the cabinet, dude. They're white Jewish guys. And if you think that a Jewish guy can't be white and you're calling me anti-Semitic, oh, I don't know. I don't know, man. Feels like the anti-Semitism might be coming from within the building. Do you think the West would back a settler colonial project that isn't fundamentally white supremacist? You moron. You fucking buffoon. You imbecile. Vaush is overwhelmingly wrong here. Vaush is wrong here. That's cool. Like, I don't have to argue with you. I have secret tools. I have a secret tool to help me out. Wow, what an ignorant screed. Vaush needs to look at the dash. I don't care to argue with Zionists, man. Nothing that I just said is incorrect. You're just angry because you've been taught to be angry at what I said. You didn't engage with any of the underlying logic of any of the argument that I just made. You're just mad. Yeah, it's impossible for a group of people to not have a cultural amount. Paradox Express, you literally didn't engage with anything I said. You heard words and you chose to accept an interpretation of them, and you're sticking to it in spite of contrary evidence. And frankly, that's a you problem. That's not a me problem. I didn't make you like that. I didn't break your brain. I'm not your parents. I'm not responsible for whatever cognitive deficiencies have led you to be able to like completely ignore the sentiment of my message. You say that, but BB has literally showcased multiple brown people to the Congress. You are obviously wrong. Is it a joke? Is it a troll or is it not? I don't know. Is it a troll or is it not? I don't know. How am I supposed to tell? It's YouTube chat. I can't look up a person's log history. How am I supposed to tell? How am I supposed to tell? I am trolling? Okay. Thank God. Whew. An American commentating on international culture is hilarious. You're right, it is, because American culture is international culture. We're so powerful that our culture spreads the entire world. There are people wearing Levi's in fucking Turkmenistan, man. It's weird whenever yeah, you bend to us. The world revolves around us. The importance of making statements sometimes, like Israel doesn't have a real culture like Iran, even though that's a statement that requires clarification because it can be interpreted in ways that are objectively incorrect. The importance of making statements like that is that oftentimes people who watch you are retards. And they will latch on to statements that they will interpret uncharitably, and then rather than engage with the meaning of what you've said, they will hold on to the sentiment, the interpretation they decided to adopt, and they will take it like all the way home, you know? And it's important to say sort of aggrieved or insightful stuff like that. And sorry, I shouldn't say insightful, I guess incisive, adjective stuff, because you want to be able to test people who are fragile enough that they can't engage with sentiment like that, you know? It's very, very important. How long will it take for Israeli culture to develop? No, you're thinking about it the wrong way, Sleepy Joe Biden. There's no such thing as there not being a culture. When I say X doesn't have culture, that would be like saying X doesn't have morals. That's not actually a thing. Every person has morals. You just might disagree with how they apply them or what their standards for morals are. It's a shorthand for saying they don't have a kind of developed regional identity. This is a thing that happens, you know? Like the idea of a cohesive shared culture, something that is not meaningfully, it's something that exists in like a significant capacity, but it's something that you can refer to. So I'll ask you guys this, okay? Who do you think has more of an authentic regional culture? The Israeli Jewish population that lived there for thousands of years, along with their Palestinian brethren, or the modern Israeli Zionist state composed mostly of European, American, and like local immigrants, whatever, people who have come in to form the kind of collective settler colonial state? Both obviously have a culture, even if the latter is more disparate. Why do we say the former then? Well, because when we talk about culture, we kind of talk about a shared set of identities and ideas. We talk about something that you can point to and go, hey, yeah, like this is an identifying feature or characteristic of the population or of the region, you know? But it's hard to say that for current Israel because current Israel is a settler colonial project. Vaush, does that mean Native Americans have more culture than the other people inhabiting the U.S.? For one, obviously, yes. Native American tribes have a way more grounded cultural identity than basically any American. Yeah, well, like for one, obviously, yes. But for two, America's no longer a settler colonial project. The project is over. We won. We're now just a colonial country. So, you know, America doesn't really have the same kind of America isn't like cobbled together from a bunch of people who just came over here from Warsaw yesterday. Most of our immigrant groups came over here, you know, like at least a century ago, the Italians, the Irish, what have you. Generally speaking, the colonial project is something that kind of comes at the cost of regional culture because you're defining yourself more by your suppression of the groups there than you are. Like, think of it this way. What was American culture before the American Revolution? Dog, it was just like British culture. There wasn't much of a local culture to American colonists before 1776. Eventually, it grew more disparate, but they were kind of just like Britain light, man. They were British colonials, you know? They didn't have much of a regional culture because they were engaged in the project of replacing the existing region, the existing culture, you know? The divergence is something that kind of like, you know, makes you your own culture, you know? Much in the same way that I would say that like Taiwan, like the Chinese diaspora after Mao won the Civil War, the Chinese diaspora from the government that moved over to Taiwan would not have initially had much of a disparate culture, but now obviously Taiwan does have a distinct culture from China. It's not really like an empirical measurement thing. It's just kind of like, you know, we're vibing it out. I haven't seen Vaush this upset in a while. I take it you don't catch many streams. It's not a matter of being upset. I just want people to understand what I mean. A statement I fully defend. Vaush gatekeeping culture to his personal preferences is crazy. This is the reason why it's really, really important to make statements like this, man. You got to go on the ban spree every once in a while. These are topics that get people really, I like Thana 07ing before I even hit the ban button because she knows. It's really important to go on stuff like this because you need to be able to like weed out people who can't critically engage with the statements that you're making. You got to chill, man. I understand what you mean, but I think Israel has developed a local culture. Sleepy Joe Biden. Like I said a second ago, saying that an area has no culture is like saying an area has, or a person has no morals. It's not literally possible. A person can't literally be bereft of morals if they're intelligent enough to understand the concepts of right and wrong, which basically all humans are. They can have morals. No one doesn't have morals. It's a shorthand for saying they don't care about them or their morals are wrong or so on and so forth. You know, you're getting at another statement there. If I say someone, if you say a person is without culture because they don't care at all about art or whatever, or they don't care at all about like media, or they don't really engage with the world they're in, you're not literally saying they are incapable with or divergent from culture. You're saying they don't really engage with it. Likewise, when I say that Israel doesn't have culture like Iran, I'm comparing Israel's current existence as a settler colonial state to Iran, which you can draw longevity back to literally like millennia. Like Iran today is the successor state of a direct cultural lineage that you can point to and refer to going back a really long way. This is the reason why it bothers me when people pretend that modern Zionist Jews in Israel are like direct descendants of the fucking 13 tribes, or like they've been in Palestine their whole lives or whatever. Like if you live in Iran, there's a very decent possibility that you can trace not only your bloodline, your lineage back a very long ways, all the way back in Iran, or you can kind of refer to the cultural longevity, but like you can like see the roots, you know what I mean? But that's not the case for a bunch of the expats that have come over to Israel. How could it be? A lot of them have been in Europe for thousands of years. This direct association with blood and land, it's a fascist lie. Aruru, I know that American and British cultures had diverged, but they were definitely not distinct in the way they are today, in large part because the colonial project kind of mandates that you be an extension of the culture of the state that you're repping as a colonial force. I think some people think pedantry equals cleverness. I think that's the thing that bothers me. We're touching on a tricky subject here, and I'm kind of trying to watch a speech by Netanyahu. So rather than people hearing what I'm saying and thinking, oh, I understand that point, I'm going to like, okay, this is what he meant, or like, this is what I take from it. They try to like one-up me, which for one, you can't. I'm a YouTuber. No one comes even close to our intellectual echelon. Thank you. And for two, you're engaging in a kind of anti-intellectualism. It makes you stupider than me. If you trust me enough to watch my content and engage with what I say for my political arguments, I mean, why are you watching me if you place no stock in what I say? You should be smart enough to try to seek out the truth in what I say, rather than being a pedant and argue with the particulars on a subject complicated enough that you could fill a book with it. All right? Vaush tried to say Israel doesn't have culture, and that's why Israelis are innocent and actually love Muslims. What are you doing, man? If you don't hold Israelis accountable for Zionist government, why do you hold white people accountable? Oh, you're a Nazi. Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for the search channel activity thing. Incomprehensible. That man doesn't speak for YouTube chat. Yeah. Do you think Arab Jews who fled from Arab nations are settler colonizers? And if so, is it comparable to European Jews who initially colonized Israel? I mean, they're two distinct groups, but you can be a settler colonizer even if you fled from an Arab nation, sure. You fled from an area where you were like a dispossessed minority so that you could dispossess others. Yeah, that's totally possible. Yeah. I mean, it happens all the time. I mean, it happened in Europe too. Did we arrive at something approximating a conclusion? Yes? No? Okay. Well, you know.